The grand palace floated above the glowing cities of Zareth, a world of colors and lights that no human had ever imagined. The walls pulsed like living veins, humming with energy that could be felt in the bones. The alien queen Zalara floated at the center of the throne room. Her many eyes reflected centuries of wisdom, her multiple arms moving with unmatched grace. She had ruled this world for hundreds of years, feared and respected by all. Yet today, a strange feeling twisted in her chest. Today, she was to meet him, the human her people had chosen as her mate. The doors opened slowly, and a man walked in. He was tall, but not imposing. His frame was simple, almost fragile by Zalaran standards. His clothes were plain, his movements calm, and yet there was something in his eyes that made her pause, a quiet courage, a gentle confidence that did not demand attention but still drew it. "You are the human called Mark?" Zalara asked, her voice ringing like crystal. "I am," he replied softly, bowing slightly. "It is an honor to meet you, Queen Zalara." Her advisors tensed. They had expected fear, trembling, or at least awe. But Mark's calm presence unsettled them. Zalara felt something she had not felt in centuries, curiosity mixed with irritation. "Why were you chosen for me?" she asked, her many eyes narrowing. "Do your people even understand what life is like in my world?" Mark looked at her steadily. "I do not know much yet, Your Majesty, but I am willing to learn, and I will respect your world as I do my own." The simplicity of his answer made her pause. He was not boastful. He did not tremble. He simply existed, steady as the stars. Over the next days, Zalara observed him closely. Mark stumbled at first, touching things he should not, mispronouncing their language, causing minor accidents in the palace. Zalara felt a mix of amusement and frustration. She had expected fear, respect, or even weakness, but never this strange, calm determination. Then came the first test. A minor energy conduit in the palace began to collapse, threatening an entire wing. The guards panicked, their weapons useless against the failing system. Zalara braced herself for failure, for the human to prove he was fragile and weak. But Mark moved forward without fear. His hands traced the strange alien machinery, his voice clear as he gave instructions to the guards. Within minutes, the conduit stabilized. The energy flowed safely again. Zalara's breath caught. She had not expected him to understand their technology, let alone control it. He looked at her afterward, unafraid and unassuming. "It is safe now," he said simply. No pride, no need for applause. Just calm, steady competence. Zalara's centuries of certainty wavered. She had always judged by appearances, by strength and knowledge shown boldly. Yet this human, fragile in form, had moved with quiet power that could save lives without claiming glory. Her heart, long used to control and fear, felt a strange warmth. She realized that perhaps she had been wrong about humans. Perhaps their true power was hidden, subtle, and unlike anything she had ever seen. As the days passed, she found herself watching him more closely. He helped the guards, he learned their customs, he laughed gently at mistakes, never mocking, always patient. And she began to notice small things, how he treated her advisors with respect, how he smiled at simple beauty, how he remained calm even when others panicked. The alien queen, who had ruled for centuries with certainty and pride, began to feel uncertainty and curiosity. For the first time in her long life, Zalara wondered if this human could be more than a mate, more than a curiosity. Could he be her equal? Could he be someone who would stand beside her, not as fragile flesh, but as true strength? And in that quiet, pulsing hall, surrounded by the hum of her people and the glow of her palace, Zalara realized one undeniable truth. Her life was about to change forever. Days passed in the palace. Yet Zalara could not shake the feeling that the human before her was unlike any creature she had ever encountered. Mark moved quietly through her world, observing, learning, adapting with a patience that defied the instincts of her people. The alien queen had always expected fear, weakness, or at least hesitation, but this human faced every challenge with calm resolve. One morning, the palace alarm sounded. A fleet of rogue ships had entered the orbit, threatening the capital. Zalara's guards sprang into action, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. They were powerful, trained, and ruthless. Still, their panic was clear, their movements hurried and tense. Zalara's lips curled in annoyance. Humans were supposed to be fragile, incapable of understanding alien technology or tactics. Mark, however, remained calm. He studied the control panels, touched the screens, and asked precise questions. His presence alone seemed to slow the panic around him. Zalara watched him from above, floating silently, her many eyes fixed on every move. He was small, human, fragile, but his mind was sharp, adaptive, and fearless. "Queen Zalara," Mark said. "Without turning to her, we can reroute the energy shields to protect the city. But we will need every guard focused on their positions, and some ships must be lured into the asteroid field. I can guide them." Zalara blinked. She had not expected him to understand strategy. Not just that he seemed to see possibilities others had missed. One of her advisors hissed under their breath, "He cannot. It is impossible for a human." Mark's voice cut through the tension. "Nothing is impossible if you act carefully and decisively." The operation began. Under Mark's guidance, the guards moved with precision. The rogue ships were drawn into the asteroid field, and the city's shields stabilized just in time. Zalara hovered above, feeling an emotion she could not name. Pride? Astonishment? Perhaps a little fear. She had been taught that humans were fragile, that their strength was limited. Yet this one human had outmaneuvered her best strategists. After the crisis, the palace was quiet. The alarms had stopped, the fleet was retreating, and the guards stood in awe. Zalara approached Mark, her many eyes studying him. You are not what I expected," she said quietly. "I never wanted to be," Mark replied, a gentle smile on his face. "I am human. I can only do what I know, what I can learn." Zalara's heart twisted. There was honesty in his voice, a simple truth that her people often lacked. They wielded power to show dominance. Humans use strength differently. They protected, they persevered, they adapted. And in this human, Zalara felt a force she had never experienced before. Later that night, Zalara could not sleep. She floated among the palace corridors, her mind racing. Memories of centuries of rule, of battles won and lost, of rivals crushed under her power, all of it seemed small compared to the quiet strength of this human. He had done nothing to seek glory, yet his impact was undeniable. Her chest tightened. She realized that she had underestimated not only humans, but Mark himself. This calm, fragile-looking human held a strength that could rival her own, a power she could barely understand. And for the first time in her life, Zalara felt uncertainty, not fear, but a shift in how she saw the world. She found herself smiling, almost without knowing why. Perhaps it was curiosity, or perhaps something deeper: admiration, respect, even a budding sense of affection. Zalara had ruled with certainty for centuries, but Mark had challenged that certainty without raising a hand. And in the quiet of her palace, as the lights pulsed softly against the walls, the alien queen realized one undeniable truth. The human she had been told to rule over, to view as fragile and insignificant, was something far more powerful than she had ever imagined. Something in her heart shifted, and she knew that the coming days would test them both: her patience, her pride, and the very definition of what strength meant. Mark, the human, had not yet revealed his full power, and Zalara, for all her centuries of experience, was not sure she was ready for it. The sun of Zareth was a strange, golden hue that bathed the palace in a warm glow, but inside, tension simmered. Reports had come of a rogue alien faction attempting to sabotage the city's energy core. Zalara's advisors were in a panic. She had faced thousands of threats in her long life, but this one unsettled her. She knew her army could handle any challenge, yet there was something different about this time. Mark, the human, stood quietly beside her. His presence was calm, unassuming, but Zalara felt a strange reassurance just seeing him there. The guards had begun to doubt themselves, their movements jittery, but Mark's steady gaze seemed to anchor them. Zalara, who had always relied on her own unmatched strength and intellect, found herself watching him closely, unsure of what he would do. The city's energy core was failing. Sparks danced in the air, and a low hum of instability filled the chamber. Zalara had immediately ordered her best soldiers to contain the crisis, but even their combined efforts were struggling. Mark stepped forward, unafraid of the chaos surrounding him. "I need access to the control interface," he said simply, his voice calm but commanding. "Guide me." Zalara blinked. No human had ever dared speak like that in her presence. Not only did he request access, he expected to be trusted, and yet she found herself nodding. There was something about him that drew respect naturally, as Mark worked, his hands moving over the alien console with surprising familiarity. Zalara's curiosity grew. How could he understand this technology so quickly? It was designed to confuse even the most experienced Zalarans. Sparks shot from the energy core, but Mark did not flinch. Instead, he closed his eyes for a moment, then whispered instructions. To the guards, adjusting their positions and rerouting energy flows with precise, almost intuitive accuracy. Zalara's breath caught. She had expected mistakes, hesitation, failure. This fragile-looking human was controlling the situation. With clarity and focus that rivaled her own centuries of training, one of the rogue saboteurs appeared, attempting to destroy a crucial power relay. Without hesitation, Mark stepped forward, not with weapons, but with a confidence that seemed to radiate from his very being. He moved faster than the eye could, using his knowledge of timing and leverage to disable the saboteur without harm. The guards stared, mouths open, as the human acted with a skill that seemed impossible. When the energy core stabilized, the palace erupted in relief. The guards bowed, their respect undeniable. Zalara hovered silently above the scene, her many eyes fixed on Mark. She felt an unfamiliar swell of emotion, pride, yes, but also something warmer, something she had never allowed herself to feel before. Admiration, respect, something deeper, human, she said softly, her voice carrying across the chamber. You are extraordinary." Mark turned to her, sweat on his brow, his expression calm but tired. "I am only doing what I can," he said humbly. "I learn quickly. I do what must be done to protect others." Zalara's chest tightened. This was different from anything she had ever experienced. Her people ruled through power, through fear and dominance. Humans, she realized, had a strength that was quiet, persistent, and selfless. They did not need to show off to prove themselves. They simply acted, and the results spoke for themselves. For the first time, Zalara saw the human race in a new light. They were fragile in form, yes, but their courage, intelligence, and adaptability could surpass even the most advanced alien races. And Mark was proof of that truth, that night. As Zalara watched the city glow beneath her palace, she could not stop thinking about him. How could someone so ordinary in appearance hold such power? How could a human act with such courage and clarity in the face of danger? A part of her wanted to deny it, to cling to her centuries of belief that humans were inferior. But deep inside, she knew the truth. This human was extraordinary in ways she could barely understand. And for the first time in her long life, Zalara realized that strength was not always measured in limbs, weapons, or technology. Sometimes it was measured in heart, in courage, and in the willingness to act when all seemed lost. Mark had not only survived her world, he had mastered it. And the alien queen, Zalara, could feel a storm of emotions she could neither name nor control. Her human husband had begun to show his true power. She was not ready for how it would change everything. The palace had quieted after the crisis, but tension lingered like a storm cloud. Zalara floated through the corridors, her thoughts tangled in the strange mix of admiration and unease she felt for Mark. He was human, yet he had done what even the best Zalaran warriors could not. Every advisor whispered behind her back, warning, that she was letting a fragile creature gain too much influence. Zalara felt their concern but ignored it her curiosity, and she admitted reluctantly. Her respect for Mark had grown too strong to be swayed by gossip. Mark, meanwhile, moved through the palace with his usual calm demeanor. He observed the technology, the guards, and the advisors with quiet attention. He had already earned respect from many, but suspicion lingered among the more traditional members of the court. They could not understand how a human could achieve so much with no weapons, no advanced powers, only cleverness and courage. It was not long before another challenge arrived. One of the palace's energy gates, massive portals that controlled the flow of resources to the city, suddenly malfunctioned. Sparks flew and alarms blared, throwing the palace into chaos. Zalara's advisors panicked immediately. "It is sabotage," one of them shouted. "The human cannot handle this." Mark, however, stepped forward with steady hands. "Calm yourselves," he said gently. "We will assess the situation first." Zalara's heart tightened. His calmness contrasted sharply with the fear surrounding them. She had spent centuries learning to control crises through sheer force and strategy. But Mark's presence reminded her that there were other ways to meet danger. The energy gate was a complex system, and even for the best-trained Zalarans, it was nearly impossible to repair quickly. Mark examined the panels, traced wires, and carefully rerouted energy flows. The advisors whispered anxiously, doubting him at every turn. Sparks leapt from the core, and a wave of heat swept the room. Zalara's instinct screamed at her to intervene, to take control herself, but she stopped. She had to trust him, if only to see the outcome. Minutes passed. The room felt like it held its breath. Then, slowly, the alarm stopped. The energy gate hummed steadily, functioning as it should. Zalara turned to Mark, her eyes wide with a mix of astonishment and admiration. He looked at her, sweat on his brow, but a quiet smile on his face. "It is stable," he said simply. "No one is hurt." Her chest swelled. She had seen him in danger before, but this was different. He had faced a threat that could cripple her entire city, and handled it calmly, with skill, and without seeking recognition. For a fleeting moment, Zalara felt something she had never allowed herself to feel fully. Pride not in herself, but in him. Yet the palace was not fully convinced. The advisors approached, their faces tense. "Your Majesty," one said, "this human is clever, but he does not belong in your court. His kind is weak, unpredictable. Trusting him is dangerous." Zalara turned sharply, her many eyes flashing. "Do you see what he just did?" she asked. "He saved our city when even the strongest among you struggled. You call that weakness?" The advisors faltered, unsure how to respond. Zalara floated closer to Mark, feeling a warmth in her chest she could not ignore. "I am beginning to see strength differently," she admitted softly. "Strength is not always in the arms, the weapons, or the power we display. Sometimes it is in the heart, the mind, and the courage to act when others panic." Mark looked at her, his eyes gentle and steady. "I only do what I can," he said humbly. "I am not extraordinary. I simply try to help." Zalara's lips curved into a small smile. She had ruled for centuries, commanding fear and respect. Yet this human had earned something more, her trust. With trust came something even more dangerous for her hard admiration. And perhaps something she was only beginning to understand: affection. That night, as the palace lights pulsed softly against the walls, Zalara hovered in silence, thinking of him. He was human, fragile in appearance, simple in form. And yet he had proven that his mind and courage surpassed even the most advanced alien warriors. The alien queen realized that the future would not be shaped by fear or by power alone. It would be shaped by people like him, humans who had the courage to act, the patience to learn, to protect others even when all seemed lost. And Zalara, centuries of experience aside, felt a quiet excitement in her chest. The human she had been told to underestimate was becoming the most important figure in her world. Mark had earned her trust, and with that trust, everything was about to change. The city of Zareth shimmered under the twin suns, but in the heart of the palace, a storm was brewing. Rumors of rebellion had reached the queen's ears. Rogue factions, attempting to claim power in the chaos that sometimes followed Mark's unusual interventions. The palace was tense. Zalara floated above the corridors, her mind sharp and alert. Yet her thoughts kept returning to the human beside her. Mark had been quiet that morning, examining the palace systems with his usual calm precision. But Zalara could sense a difference today. There was a stillness in him that felt like anticipation, like something waited just beneath the surface. She could not place it, yet she felt the pull of something powerful, hidden, and undeniably human. The alarms rang suddenly, shattering the silence. A fleet of armored ships had breached the city's perimeter. The palace shook under their assault. Guards rushed into position, energy weapons glowing, their fear barely contained. Zalara's advisors barked orders, but even they were tense. "Stay here," Zalara said to Mark, her voice sharp but tinged with concern. "This is dangerous." Mark shook his head. "I cannot," he said quietly. "If I do nothing, many will be hurt." Zalara's heart skipped. Humans were fragile, yet he stepped forward with a calm she had never seen. The guards hesitated, unsure. But Mark's presence alone seemed to steady them. He approached the control panel of the palace's defense systems. The interface was alien, designed to be confusing to outsiders, yet Mark moved over it like it was second nature. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the palace seemed to hum in response to his touch. Then it happened. A surge of energy pulsed from Mark, subtle at first, then growing stronger. The ships outside were caught off guard. Weapons misfired, engines faltered, and slowly the fleet began to retreat. The palace guards stared, mouths agape, as the human did what no Zalaran had ever imagined possible. Zalara floated closer, her many eyes wide. "Mark, what are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. He looked at her, calm as ever. "I am protecting what I can," he said simply. "I never wanted power, but I will use it if it saves lives." Her chest tightened. She had never seen a human command energy like this, bending the flow of power with nothing but will and precision. He was fragile in form, ordinary in appearance, yet he moved like a force of nature. The queen felt awe, fear, and admiration swirl together inside her. When the fleet finally retreated, the palace was silent. Guards and advisors alike stared at Mark in disbelief. The human had done the impossible. Zalara hovered before him, feeling something she could not name. All this time she whispered, "I thought humans were weak. I thought you were fragile." Mark shook his head gently. "I am human. I am not invincible. But we have strength in ways your people cannot see. Courage, heart, adaptability, that is our power." For the first time, Zalara truly understood. Humans were not weak. They did not need towering limbs, countless arms, or glowing weapons to change the world. They only needed courage, intelligence, and the will to act when it mattered most. The queen felt tears prick her eyes. She had judged him, underestimated him, yet he had proven not only his strength but the very essence of humanity itself. She wanted to bow, to kneel, to show respect in ways her people had never shown before, but words failed her. Instead, she floated silently, watching him. The human she had married, the one she had thought ordinary, was extraordinary, not just in power, but in heart. And she knew, deep in her soul, that her life, her reign, and her understanding of strength had changed forever. Mark turned to her, a small, humble smile on his face. "It's not about being the strongest," he said. "It's about doing what is right, even when the world doubts you." Zalara's chest swelled. For the first time, she did not feel like the most powerful being in the room. She felt honored, humbled, and inspired. The human beside her had revealed his true power not just in strength, but in courage, heart, and an unshakable resolve. And the alien queen, for all her centuries of rule, could only watch in awe. Knowing that the future would never be the same, the palace of Zareth was quiet that evening, the glow of the twin suns fading into the soft, pulsing lights of the city below. Zalara floated among the corridors, her thoughts heavy yet filled with a strange warmth she had not felt in centuries. The human, Mark, had revealed powers she could hardly comprehend, yet he remained humble, gentle, and unwavering. had earned her trust in ways no alien advisor ever could. Her advisors still whispered, but their voices no longer carried the same weight. Zalara had made her choice. She would follow her instincts and stand beside Mark. She had always ruled by strength and fear, yet she felt that this human had shown her a different kind of power, one built on courage, wisdom, and heart. Mark walked beside her, his steps calm, his presence steady. "The city is safe for now," he said softly. "But we cannot ignore the threats. There will be more challenges." Zalara looked at him, her many eyes reflecting the soft glow of the palace. "I know," she said, "and I trust you, more than anyone else in this palace." Mark's lips curved into a small smile, though he did not boast or act proud. "I do not seek praise. I only want to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Zalara's chest tightened. She realized she had underestimated not only humans, but the very essence of what they could offer. They were not fragile. They were resilient, clever, and capable of acts that no alien could predict. And Mark, standing calmly in the heart of her palace, embodied that truth in every gesture, every word, every breath. As they moved through the corridors, Zalara noticed the subtle ways Mark observed everything: the guard's posture, the hum of the energy panels, even the expressions of her advisors. He did not act with arrogance, but with quiet understanding, learning and adapting at every moment. She had always valued intellect and strength, but this human showed her that true power could be patient, subtle, and persistent. Suddenly, an alert flashed. A group of rogue diplomats had infiltrated the palace's outer chambers, seeking to challenge her authority and undermine the city's stability. The guards prepared to confront them, but Zalara did not move immediately. Instead, she looked at Mark. He nodded slightly, understanding her silent question. "Let me try to resolve this without violence first," he said calmly. Zalara watched as Mark approached the intruders. His voice was firm yet gentle, commanding attention without threats. The rogues hesitated, confused by his calm courage. Slowly, they lowered their weapons, swayed by the human's conviction rather than force. Within moments, the situation was diffused without a single strike. Zalara's heart swelled. She had seen armies, weapons, and strategies fail to control her world. But this human, fragile in appearance, had done what they could not. He had used courage, intelligence, and compassion to assert authority. Later, that night, Zalara and Mark stood on the balcony overlooking the glowing city. The twin suns had disappeared, leaving a sky of swirling stars and distant lights. She could feel the weight of centuries in her chest, yet it was no longer heavy. It felt alive, vibrant, and filled with possibility. "You are extraordinary," she whispered, almost to herself. "Not just in power, but in the way you carry yourself, in the way you care." Mark looked at her, eyes soft but steady. "I am human," he said simply. "We have limits, but we also have hearts. We protect what we love." Zalara's eyes softened. She realized that for the first time in her long life, she was not alone in her rule. She had someone who could stand beside her, not just as a husband, but as a partner, a protector, and a guide. The bond between them deepened silently, a quiet understanding passing without words. The palace, with all its power and grandeur, felt smaller compared to the truth they shared. Courage, trust, and connection could be stronger than any weapon or strategy. Zalara knew that the coming days would test them again, that challenges would rise, and that the advisors would not always approve. But she felt no fear. With Mark by her side, she understood what humans had shown her all along, that true strength comes from the heart, and that even the most fragile-looking beings could hold unimaginable power. And for the first time in centuries, the alien queen felt something she had never allowed herself to feel fully: hope. The palace of Zareth trembled under the shadow of a massive fleet approaching the city. For the first time, even Zalara felt a flicker of fear. Her advisors panicked, their voices rising in chaos. This was no ordinary threat. These were seasoned warriors, merciless and determined to conquer. Yet in the heart of the palace, Mark stood calm, as always. "Queen Zalara," he said, turning to her with steady eyes, "we can defend the city, but we must act together. Trust me." Zalara's chest tightened. She had already trusted him. More than anyone else in her life, but what was coming felt beyond comprehension. She floated beside him, feeling a mixture of awe, pride, and something warmer in her chest. She had learned that humans held a power beyond appearances, but now she was about to see it fully. The attackers breached the outer shields. Energy blasts lit the sky, and the city quaked under the onslaught. The guards fought valiantly, but even they were being pushed back. Zalara moved forward, ready to intervene, but Mark stopped her with a raised hand. "Watch," he said. He stepped to the central console and placed his hands on the alien controls. The panels glowed brightly, humming in harmony with his heartbeat. Energy pulsed around him, responding to his will. The fleet outside faltered, ships stalling mid-flight as invisible forces seemed to restrain them. Sparks of alien technology arced toward Mark, but he moved with ease, bending them to his control. Zalara's eyes widened. She had seen him handle crises before, but this was extraordinary. The human was reshaping the battlefield with his mind and will alone. He was fragile in form, ordinary in appearance, yet he radiated a strength that no alien weapon could match. The enemy ships tried to attack again, but each assault was countered seamlessly. Mark's control was precise, unyielding, and impossibly fast. He did not shout or command, he simply acted, and the results were undeniable. One by one, the attackers' formations broke, retreating in confusion and fear. When the last ship turned away, the palace erupted in silence, then cheers. Guards and advisors alike stared at him, astonished. The human who had been underestimated, mocked, and doubted had single-handedly defended an entire city. Zalara floated forward, her many eyes glistening. "Mark," she whispered, voice trembling with emotion. I have underestimated you. I have judged humans for centuries, and yet I am only human," he said quietly. "I have courage, I have heart. I do what must be done." Tears filled her eyes. For centuries, Zalara had relied on power, intimidation, and fear to rule. But here, in this moment, she realized the truth. Strength was not just in arms or technology. It was in courage, in heart, in the will to act when all hope seemed lost. She reached out and took his hand. The warmth of his skin, the steady strength in his grip was a simple gesture, yet it carried more power than any weapon in her palace. In that moment, she knew that her life had changed forever. She would no longer rule by fear alone. She would stand beside him, guided by respect, admiration, and trust. Mark looked at her, eyes calm but filled with meaning. "Together," he said simply. "Yes," Zalara whispered. "Together." The city below continued to glow, peaceful once more. The human beside her had revealed his true power, not just in strength or skill, but in courage, wisdom, and heart. Zalara, the Queen of Zareth, had learned a lesson no battle or conquest had ever taught her. Humanity was extraordinary, and their strength came from